What is up, Steeler fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Hangover. This time, this one's a little bit of a sour one as the Pittsburgh Steelers lose again, this time falling to the division rivals, Baltimore Ravens, quite badly, actually, by more than 3 points this time. Shannon, how are you doing, my man? You okay for the holidays after two losses back to back?
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. I mean, I was expecting it. I said a couple weeks ago that how the Steelers did these next three games would tell us if they were contenders or pretenders. And this is your typical how they play in big matchups. Usually it's in the playoffs. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, but it's not going to dampen my Christmas. I love Christmas. I love the holidays. I'm happy. I'm thankful for what Christmas truly means. I'm happy for our community, our family, and I'm just happy to talk some Steelers with my brother Daniel tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm happy to talk about the team as well. You know, I was a little down this week. It's a good and bad thing that it's a short week. It's bad that the team doesn't have that much time to recuperate. It's good to the Steelers can come out with a victory here, have a little bit of a mini bye really late in the season, and get healthier. I think that would be. I mean, obviously that would be the more beneficial option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's coming on Christmas. I'm excited about this game. They're going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs. But before we get into that game, let's talk about the game that was. And that Baltimore Ravens game, losing 34-17. In the first half, I thought that the Steelers offense was moving enough to score enough points. Russ has that big run and fumbles the ball in the first half. What were your thoughts and feelings in that moment when that happened?
Well, you just knew that was going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because if it had slid or if he would have veered right, he would have went in the end zone. But it was almost like he predetermined what he was going to do. And then it was like he was going to try to put his shoulder down and run through that cornerback to score, which was the worst decision. And these games are always so close that the turnover battles decide the games, and almost always. Mm-hmm. And that was huge. And then the one later we'll get to, I know, but I mean, the title of the show, we talked about it earlier today. Is it injuries? Because I keep getting, everybody says, oh, look how hurt they are. Well, every team in the league's dealing with injuries. The Ravens only had two of their top five receivers. And they got rid of Deontay Johnson, which was hilarious. But we're not talking about execution. But you say, well, they can't execute because they're missing so many people. Okay. The coach and the Eagles said it was very predictable. They knew what the Steelers were going to do. And then, so we tried to decide, but if you really look at it, it's everything. Mm-hmm. It's a typical thing that happens at the end of these seasons recently. Now it's a whole new team. There's tons of new guys. We got new quarterbacks, new defenders, the offensive line's super young. They never even went through this. Mm-hmm. So can you blame it on that? Or is it coaching a large part of it? So, but I was with you. I thought they were playing well enough, especially without Pickens. They were moving the ball and doing well enough that I thought they were going to be able to have another close, typical game. And it was even close. And they had a shot until the last turnover, which we'll talk about later. But, that first one was a killer. Because that really, it not only did it, you just felt the momentum and everything they had going, that positive energy, it just got sucked off the sidelines.
Yeah. I mean, the Steelers game actually could have gone away pretty early. The Steelers forced a couple of fumbles, just couldn't get on the ball. They had that situation there. I mean, they could have had, yeah, exactly. They could have had quite a bit of a run there if they were able to execute and capitalize on those potential turnovers, or even the turnover that they ended up getting. Minka Fitzpatrick comes in, finally gets his hand on a ball. I'm excited. I talked about it last time. I was like, hopefully this is going to be the week. I'd take the entire year for Minka Fitzpatrick to start making those splash plays here down towards the stretch and in the playoffs. And he gets it, and then 2 plays later, Russ throws in, or the next play, one of those two, Russ throws a pick six, basically ending the game at that point. I didn't think it was completely Russ's fault. The defense had its woes. I know a lot of people are piling it up on Russ. In that situation where he fumbled, he's trying to make a play. He's trying to get in the end zone. I mean, what's worse? That or Mr. Trubisky sliding 2 yards early on a 4th down.
Yeah,
it's going to be the same result. It's just, you rather see your player go for for that opportunity there. The pick six, that was a bad throw. He threw it way behind.
Mm-hmm.
That was Pruitt. But I don't fault him for trying. And things happen when you risk it. It's a lot of risk but if you're trying to get that big benefit at the end. But defensively, there's a lot of missed tackles, and you mentioned that there was some injuries. Joey Porter Jr. goes down. Apparently that's going to be a little bit longer than what any of us were hoping. He's going to be out this game. What did you think about Corey Trice?
I mean, he looked like a guy that's played like half of football all season. I mean, he played bits and pieces in 2 or 3 games prior to his injury. So it's going to take him a while. He didn't play at all last year. Yeah. And there was communication issues. Again, because you're missing Elliott, and you got missing Porter, and you got Trice in there. You got Kazee playing more than you would prefer. You have to play Bishop, and you have to play Sutton out of position. Mm-hmm. They really don't want Sutton to be one of your starting outside corners, but he has more experience than anybody else. Mm-hmm. So, the problem is, you said there was so many missed tackles, and honestly, they got pushed around again. The Eagles pushed them around, and so did the Ravens. And they had no shot at stopping Henry. If you let Henry get 5 yards of steam, he's going to run over our guys. I mean, Loudermilk was big, it stopped him, and Hayward. But I seen him stiff arm Watt one time. He's just such a large man that when he gets that momentum, you have to penetrate. You have to stop him from getting going. And I just think that the better team, what Harbaugh's done in the past that's killed the Ravens is he's went away from the game plan.
Right.
By trying to outsmart the opponent. Well, this time he kept handing the ball to Henry. It kept handing the ball to Henry. And the Steelers were focused on keeping Lamar in the pocket, but the Ravens wasn't too concerned about that, were they? They just kept pounding Henry on him. So I just think that, how much I despise Harbaugh. But Harbaugh stayed out of the way and let the Ravens win the game.
Yeah. Well, Patrick Queen even said at the end of the game there that it was sloppy football. Mm-hmm. And, I think he was kind of referring to some people maybe not being in the right spot. Is it the coaching? Is it the players, the execution? A lot of players were hurt. I when you look at this game and you look at the game against the Ravens back when it was in Pittsburgh a few weeks back, defensively it looked completely different. But the players that are on the defense that went out there this week were still the same players that were on the defense last year. And for the most part, Dante Jackson, he wasn't playing last year. Neither was Deshaun Elliott. KZ was in there. And so, you would expect there to be a certain bar, even though they don't have their main guys there. But I do think that TJ Watt still dealing with the ankle injury was probably a huge component, because last time that they played, TJ Watt was in the backfield just wrecking havoc, especially on Henry, and that wasn't the situation this game. a short week doesn't help him. It doesn't look like Joey Porter Jr. is going to be back for the regular season. Possibly. Definitely not this game. Who steps up? Who has to, where do the Steelers go to fix this problem on the outside?
Well, hopefully Deontay Jackson will be back.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying there's a chance he'll play Christmas.
Yeah.
And that would allow you to do Trice like you want to in sub packages and let him spell, get some of the reps at the other corner.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, use Sutton there as well, Bishop in the slot, depending on matchups.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have somebody's going to have to cover Kelsey. But Kelsey ain't the threat athletically he used to be.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about Queen and Wilson on Kelsey. And, some Fitzpatrick as well. Kansas City's not explosive like they used to be. Mm-hmm. They don't have, outside of Worthy, and we know that if Worthy you let him get loose, that can be a problem. But I'm not as worried about their offense as I was the Ravens and the Eagles.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that, we're going to pound the ball down your throat style.
Right.
So I think that the Steelers can be competitive. They're going to have to do better on both sides of the ball. But yeah, you in a perfect world, Trice got a lot of experience, knocked a lot of rust off, and he'll be able to help fill in for Porter if Porter's out till the playoffs.
I think so too. I think that the defense also switched to a little bit more of a zone game once Porter got out. And I think maybe that also kind of had its effect on the defense. Maybe they were anticipating playing more of a man coverage, and then, maybe have practiced that more throughout the week. And then, Porter goes out, and now you don't have that disruptor at the line of scrimmage like him. Well, at least you don't have that confidence in Trice to do that yet. And, you have him pressing up back a little bit and then going in the zone. I don't think that was going to be for their best, to their abilities at that point. But I think when you look at perhaps the mental aspect of the game plan, it was a little bit too much for the outside guys who have been there, who are the third and fourth string cornerbacks on the team. So maybe it's not really a long week, but maybe a couple of days of practicing without Joey Porter, they can formulate a scheme that that'll be a lot better than what we saw last week, or just the other day. And I'm hoping TJ Watt gets back a little bit healthier as well. The running game last week, it was bad. Even that, that he was getting open. If he didn't get his concussion, he was causing some damage there to the defense as well. Do you think that there should be any heat, so to speak, towards Terrell Austin and the way that this defense has been performing?
Oh, I feel like they should have been heat on Terrell Austin all year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't like his creativity. I believe that Tomlin really caused the defense. I think Austin is that's why he's there, because he can be manipulated by Tomlin. It's Tomlin's defense. And I do not. They blitzed the ball. They blitzed the Ravens more than they have all year. One of the highest marks in the league last week. Mm-hmm. But their blitzes were obvious. You could see them coming. And it took too long to get there because they didn't start blitzing the line of scrimmage till the ball was snapped. So Lamar just easily looked around, found the open guy, got rid of the ball, and he got hit right after he threw it. How many times? But what I'm saying is that a well-timed blitz is something that you should work on all year. And now they're trying to bring it out because I think they've got 36 sacks, which is like 16th in the league. This is not good for a Steelers team. And we know that teams started, when the sacks started to go down, they started doubling Watt. They started chipping him like crazy. They said he's not breaking no records this year. And he's sacrificed. But they haven't been able to make teams pay for single blocking Highsmith and Herbig and the other guys. And they have to be more effective. And that'll take some of that attention away from Watt. But it was a combination of the pass rush wasn't getting there fast enough, and the coverage wasn't holding up long enough. And I would have still lived with that. And I think they could have still won. But they just could not stop the run. And a recipe for disaster. If you remember the Eagles game, they dominated the time of possession.
Mhm.
Well, the Ravens did too.
Yeah, that was definitely an issue there in time of possession. But I do think that the offense was a little bit more productive this game than they were against the Eagles. I think it was like quite a bit better, to be honest with you. Against the Eagles, it was, I mean, they only had 2 possessions in the entire second half. I mean, you can't get any worse than that. So I thought that they did play better. George Pickens is anticipated to be back this week. I think there's I read somewhere on maybe Schefter or somebody said something to the effect that they're waiting on one more health exam just to make sure that he's good to go before the Christmas game. I was listening to some other folks that talk about the Steelers. They mentioned that, they thought that this was a good surprise, that maybe perhaps he was looking at a return for the Bengals game, but coming back this week, that's going to be huge. I mean, given what the offense was able to do this week without their star wide receiver, kind of gives me a little bit of hope that with George Pickens back in the lineup, we might see a better offensive game plan and execution as well. What are your thoughts?
Pickens is huge for this offense. He's their number one threat. He stretches the field. He keeps teams honest. We hoped he would take that next step in his development this year, that where he had to be viewed as a wide receiver 1. And I think he's definitely done that. I mean, teams have to view him as a wide receiver 1, so they have to keep safety help over the top. They have to focus on him. And that does open up everything for everybody else, including the Steelers running game. So having him back, and hopefully he can come back without re-injuring himself. If he can, it's going to open up everything. And it's going to add some zeros to his next contract.
I agree. One thing that I want to ask you also about before we hit the break is the tight end usage. Pat Freiermuth, where's he at? I don't think it's him not wanting the ball or not performing. It just seems like, he had the touchdown pass to Pruitt. Great catch, great throw. I'm not complaining whatsoever, but I just feel like they're not utilizing their main target in the tight end position in the red zone very much. But real quick, thank you, Danny Littlejohn, for your $1.99. Glad to see Corey Trice back. Hate to JPJ got hurt. So what are your thoughts on that, and also on Danny's comment?
Well, I agree with Danny. I love Trice. I mean, I'm hoping that he can stay healthy. I just think he's got loads of potential, but I want to see them both out there. And so him having to replace JPJ in this situation is not ideal. But as far as the tight end situation, I mean, honestly, your best receiver is Pat Freiermuth with Pickens out. And I think there was opportunities to establish Freiermuth. And where's Darnell Washington? Have we seen him? I mean, they even had him out, took him out for blocking for Pruitt a few times. And I don't know if he was struggling. All of a sudden, real bad there. I couldn't focus on what I wanted to focus on during the live game. But Washington is a great blocker, usually. But he hasn't caught anything in a couple of weeks. Utilize him. Utilize Freiermuth. I believe that a lot of those passes that Wilson had batted down against the Eagles was passes over the middle, and it was intended for tight ends and running backs. And I think that that's why he don't like throwing over the middle, because he's a mighty might. And he don't like trying to throw over the big guys. But they're going to have to do something. But it does raise the question to have a complete offense that the Steelers want to have. Can you do it with a quarterback sub 6 foot? Because if every quarterback I've ever seen at his height have blocking schemes that where the linemen block a certain way to give him throwing lanes, alleys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Steelers were lucky just to keep the guys off of him because they're such a young line and inexperienced, and they're struggling right now. McCormick, regardless of what anybody's paying attention, McCormick's struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's understandable. He's from a smaller school. He's starting as a rookie in the NFL, and he's probably hitting the rookie wall. But he is really struggling against size and some of these really top tackles. And I just think that Wilson struggles to find these throwing lanes where he feels comfortable. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're not seeing Freiermuth and Washington utilized as much. Because they did that rollout to the weak side to Washington like 3 weeks in a row, and then everybody started keying on that.
Right.
And so they had to back off, but you can still throw it to Washington down the seam. You just got to do it.
Or in the red zone, just throw it up. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
He's a big man. I agree. With everything that you said. I mean, it's spot on. It's just to me that I think this personnel usage is just odd. It just seems to me like there's times where Arthur Smith is trying to outsmart the opposing team by saying, all right, if we don't put Pat Freiermuth on the field, they're going to think it's going to run. So we're going to pass. And I get having those moments when you do that, but having those moments so often is, I think, counterproductive of what you're trying to do. In my opinion, I think you end up shutting down your own player. You get what I'm saying? And so I don't know. I don't like it. But
I think there's a lot of times that we have Connor Hayward out there, and we have Mikael Pruitt out there. But if they're both out there, usually that means Freiermuth isn't and Washington isn't.
Yeah.
And I think you have a weaker offense.
I agree.
With whatever guys are not on the field. And it isn't like our offense is playing so many snaps that these guys need rest. Or they're getting winded trying to come back in the game and doing a lot of no huddle in the fourth. It's not that. He's trying to rotate in different personnel packages to try to create certain matchups, I believe. The problem is sometimes you think you're too smart and you end up outsmarting yourself.
You talked a little bit about McCormick, and well, you know what? Let's go to a break. We'll go to our break real quick, and then we'll talk about McCormick. We'll be right back after a few words. Welcome back to the Hangover, everybody. I hope you guys thank you for sticking tuned with us. Before we get back in the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, SteelCurtainNetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Go check out all the breaking news and up-to-the-minute news on your Pittsburgh Steelers. And while you're there, you can check out the audio-only podcast, which would include mine. Mine didn't air out this past weekend because of the game on Saturday, but there will be a State of the Steelers podcast this Saturday at 11 a.m. What's going on, Shannon? You're on mute, my man.
I did want to say, sorry about that. What I'm thinking about it is this week is all discombobulated. We talked a little bit about it on Pump Your Brakes Wednesday, with the game being Wednesday on Christmas Day, and we're moving shows around, and we were trying to decide what we were going to do about pump your brakes.
Mhm.
But with everybody traveling, and we're going to not have pump your brakes this week. Uh, so because we were going to try to do it maybe on Thursday, but like I said, it's not going to logistically work out. So I didn't want to let everybody know that we won't be on Wednesday because it's Christmas, and so there won't be a pump your brakes this week.
Got you. Got you. Thank you for the update, my man. Thank you. So before we went to break last, we were talking about the offensive line, and when you brought up McCormick and him struggling and it being a rookie wall, I think that there's a point to that. I think even the announcers mentioned some fatigue from the rookie
Mhm.
offensive linemen, and that they were doing some things different in practice. And then now you have another short week. It's going to be tough on them. But there's another rookie offensive lineman that got hurt quite a while ago. That was said that if the Steelers made the playoffs, he might be making a return, and that's rookie Fautanu. When Isaac Seumalo went down, there was some rumblings and rumors there that if it was a long season injury, that Fautanu could have the possibility of playing left guard and keep Broderick on the right tackle and Daniels on the left tackle. Seumalo's injury wasn't long term, so they had him on the right side, and then his knee goes out. If he's able to come back, we talked about the problems with McCormick in the middle. He's already, the Steelers have had possible plans to play him in the interior offensive line. Could we see him come back as the right guard in the playoffs? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that we've all thought of that
Yeah.
when we see the struggles, and you know that you're one snap away from losing a guy. So anything can happen. So you'd love to have Fautanu on the sidelines in uniform as a great insurance policy. Now, to have him come in, as Tomlin likes to say, on a moving train this late in the season, it would have to be a have to kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would be, well, McCormick's struggling this badly and we're going to replace him with Fautanu. It's really not fair to him because, he has not played at all this year.
Mm-hmm.
It would be one thing if he'd have played, say, the first 3 games. And, he kind of broke the ice, of being an NFL player and that experience. And, it's one thing to start in a preseason game. It'd be another thing to start in the postseason, your first game. So, but I would love to see him get the opportunity to dress, to practice, to be in the meetings and gain that experience, that playoff experience. It's a different atmosphere. And all these young guys need that. And it'd be even better if they can win one and they can experience that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he will be the answer unless there is a injury that they have to say Small who can't play or one of the tackles. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I really hope that McCormick will be able to bounce back. I love the kid's heart. I love his effort. It's a lot to ask to be a starting, right guard on a playoff team, and he's by far their biggest problem. So I'm hoping he can rebound here. I like his chemistry with Frazier, but he's making it hard on Jones because Jones is struggling himself, and having McCormick struggling right next to him that hurts that side of the line.
Yeah. Shaka Steele mentioned Leglue and him being an option maybe in the interior offensive line there. I think that if McCormick continues to struggle, I don't know. I mean, I prefer to have the best 5 out there at that moment. I think that McCormick could be the guy for the future still. It's like we said, it's a long year. It's a long year for him and a long year for the rookies. But for that moment, I wouldn't be opposed to somebody else coming in the middle. But I think he's doing okay. It's not too bad. I do think his best suit is the running game, And I think for the first time this season, we saw Jalen Warren take more snaps than Najee Harris. Um, where are you? Where do you think that's going to continue? Do you think that's going to be a trend that's going to continue where Najee Jalen Warren ends up becoming RB1?
Well, we talked about it before the season that this blocking scheme, the outside zone, is not ideal for Najee.
Mm-hmm.
We seen in the game the other day when the play was adequately blocked. Now, sometimes he didn't have much of a chance because they let too much penetration and he was hit before he could get momentum. Henry's the same way. If you can hit Henry before he builds up momentum, you can slow him down. And that happened a lot to Harris the other night. But when he did get adequate blocking, he was getting 4 yards, 5 yards. If you see, there was one play that they had everything bottled up inside, and he broke sideways, tried to get to the sideline, and cut it upfield.
Yeah.
As soon as he started going sideways, I sat there and I said, "Play's over." And sure enough, he got right there and lost the yard. He just can't do it. He cannot. He doesn't have what Henry has.
Mm-hmm.
Henry has first that once he gets that large frame moving, he can hit 21, 22 miles an hour. That's not Harris. Harris cannot run like Henry does. So they brought in Warren, and on that one drive, the touchdown drive to was it Fairmouth?
Pruitt.
No, it's Pruitt. Now that drive, they ran the ball effectively for a short period of time, like 4 or 5 runs in a row. And it was Warren every time because he was hitting the hole faster. And I think he sees the hole. I think he has better vision than Harris does. The advantage Harris has is if Harris is contacted at 1 yard, he can drag guys 2 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if Warren gets contacted at 1 yard and the play's not adequately blocked, he don't go nowhere. You know, Warren can break arm tackles because he's small and he runs through like a bowling ball. But he can't, if it's a defensive lineman or something, they get a hold of him, the play's over because he's a smaller guy. So I think it's going to depend on matchups. But I'll tell you this, Harris dropped another pass.
Mm-hmm.
And he dropped the pass the same way he dropped the fumble the week before. He's trying to take off before he catches it. And that hurt them on that drive because it made it 2nd and 10, and they couldn't stay ahead of the sticks. Mm-hmm. Warren has better hands. So for that reason, I'd like to see Warren getting a little bit more play right now because he's more explosive than Harris. And without Fields and without Pickens, they lacked explosiveness.
You see, and I think that might also be a reason. So a lot of folks will say and look at Warren and Najee and say that, you know, Najee doesn't get the same looks. Every time he gets in the game, the defense of the opposing team is, you know, in the box. And then sometimes that is the case. But I think the fact that he doesn't have that catching ability, like a Jalen Warren, you know, that leaves that off the table, which is why he probably had that one big game not too long ago where he was catching everything up the middle and you know, turning around and running. You know, the last game that the Steelers won, I can't, it's just off my head right. There you go. You know, there was a wide open in the middle there. You know, I think that, all right, you know, other teams saw that, and you know, I think they played a certain way when Najee's there, and I think Jalen brings another dynamic with his hands and his ability to catch, and also his ability to block. You know, it's second to none when it comes to running backs. You know what he's able to do out there blocking for the quarterback, and when he's out there, there's more of a possibility of more things that can happen. And you know, if you are trying to live by the blitz in those situations, and you have a Jalen Warren who's able to pick them up, you're probably running those plays a little bit less than if you see Najee in there and you're saying, all right, well, he doesn't react as fast as Jalen, so let's blitz. And if he ends up getting the ball, I mean, he's right there. He's not very quick. We're in the pocket. We're there. If they end up giving them the ball, if they don't, you know, we'll be able to apply some pressure to the quarterback versus when Jalen Warren is in there because Yeah, and he does an excellent job blocking. But I think that those aspects could be a reason why Jalen is getting a better look. It's because of the overall productivity of what he can do versus what Najee can do. And I saw that Najee and Jalen, they flipped as far as percentage of who had the more touches. It was Jalen Warren this time. I want to continue to see that. I want to
Yes.
continue to see that. Najee Harry, not Najee Harry, Najee Harris. Um, yeah, I think I would like to see him more towards the end of the game. When the defense is tired, they've been chasing, and now they got somebody big coming in fresh and just ready to pound the ball into submission. Um, so yeah, no, I'm all for it. Dennis asks a question real quick. What do we do defensively, especially in the secondary, to stop Mahomes? So this is a good transition point into the next game. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs here. What are your thoughts on Mahomes? I don't think he's had the best season this year, me personally. And I don't know, man. I think they're a product of a lot of weird situations in almost every game. What do you think?
I don't know if I've ever seen a 14-1 football team with so many issues. Uh, they are not dominant. Usually, you see a record of 14-1,
Mhm.
and you see some, 35-10 games, some 42-17 games. You see some blowouts. Well, we've seen Carolina Panthers take them down to the last second. You
Mhm.
see, I mean, they are not a dominant juggernaut of a team, even though they're 14-1. I
Yeah.
think they're highly beatable.
Mhm.
I don't think that. I think Hopkins is not somebody you fear. Worthy, you don't want him to get behind you, but I don't think you fear him. Kelsey is not the most dominant tight end in the NFL no longer.
Mhm.
Their running game is what it is. It really is a testament to Andy Reid and his coaching, his coordinators, and Mahomes, uh, and that they just don't beat themselves. It seems like
That's
they
true.
get all the calls, and I've heard people say it's rigged, that it's this and that, and the NFL wants this to be the first three-peat team. I don't know why the NFL would benefit from that, but maybe people think they do. But I just think that you earn your luck, so to speak. The fact that they don't beat themselves and they play fundamentally sound football, uh, to where they stay in every game.
Mhm.
And then you have a guy like Mahomes that can win it at the end. And he takes what's there. It's funny. A lot of his late game heroics is just dropping it off to Kelsey, a screen over here or something. But the play calling's incredible. They are tough to beat in a one score game. And I think they're setting the record this year or right at it for the most one score victories.
Yeah, they're getting pretty close there. And that's one of the situations that kind of worries me about this upcoming game is time management has to be pretty spot on there. If you give Patrick Mahomes too much time, and sometimes it's only 15 seconds,
Yeah.
they they can get into position to score. So you really got to do like a walk off or really be up by multiple scores at the end of a game to probably beat them. And I think that Mahomes is an excellent quarterback, but you're right. He doesn't have that many people to throw to. He's had a lot of one one score games this season, and you know I know that a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people think it's possibly rigged. One of the reasons being is I think they want to see the whole Taylor Swift thing in the Super Bowl. Three-peat.
Yeah.
I think that'll probably bring quite a bit of money. But I have my own theory when it comes to the refs. I honestly thought that this game that the Steelers played against the Ravens and the Eagles were one of the most horrific. reffing jobs against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You had the punching in the Philadelphia game, and then you had Jalen Warren looking out of his ear hole, and no face mask penalty called, and then multiple
Did you hear
other.
Brady?
What's that?
And Brady and the old ref that sits up there with him.
Yeah,
I can't think of his name, but they said, well, he grabbed the inside of his face of his helmet. Yes. He didn't grab the face mask; he got the inside of his helmet. So I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me!
Yeah, that was ridiculous, and for them not to call, I mean, everybody can see it, and for that to be called, I thought of a thing. I was like, man, Steelers end up winning one or both of these games, especially the one against the Ravens. The rest of the season, there's not really much to play for. And so now, by the Steelers losing those 2 games, they literally have to play the rest of the season, right? No matter what. The Steelers have to go in and beat at least, or both teams would be preferable, but the Ravens for sure. I mean, not the Ravens, the Bengals for sure, and they're going to need the Ravens to lose a game. But yeah, I mean, that's where my mind started going. I was like, man, these two really bad called games, and now the Steelers have to play the entire season. I don't know.
If the Steelers win out, there's no way the Ravens win the division.
No, there's only one way.
They have to win both.
Right.
And now, if let's say the Steelers lose and then the Ravens lose to the Texans on Christmas Day, that could change things. But the key is the Steelers just can't lose again.
Right. Yeah.
No, if they won a home game,
Right. So the way it goes is the Steelers win out. They're the AFC North champs, no matter what Baltimore does. They can win out as well. If the Steelers lose a game, and the Ravens lose a game, it depends on which game. So the way that the Ravens can get in, I think it's easier to explain that. The way that the Ravens can get in as the AFC North champions are if the Steelers drop a game and they win out, then they would have, won it because they would have had one game, or the Steelers would have to lose to at least the Bengals. And if they lose a game, then at that point, if the Steelers are tied and the Steelers would have lost to the Bengals, for some reason, the Baltimore gets in. But if the Steelers beat the Bengals and the Ravens were to lose to either the Texans or the Browns, it doesn't matter which one, the Steelers are in. So there's more of a chance for the Steelers to get in. But the easiest way, obviously, is to win out. This is going to be a tough matchup. But those are the ways that the Steelers can get in. And it's going to be tough. I think the Steelers are going to have to win out, especially after the loss to Tank Dell for the Texans there in Houston. And then the Browns, it's their last game of the year. They really don't look like they're playing for much. They started DTR this last week, or at least he was playing when I tuned in. I think they got a pretty easy schedule. For me, I think the Steelers need to go in there and win it. They got to win all games to end up being there. So Deontay Johnson, former Pittsburgh Steeler, he's found himself on the Texans team. There was a lot of rumors and speculation that he may have been claimed by the Pittsburgh Steelers on waivers. The Steelers did not claim him. Were you thinking there was going to be a possible, a reuniting of Deontay Johnson with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or did you think that sale was gone? There was no chance.
No. I didn't want him. I didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear anybody else talk about it. He was a terrible fit. He was a terrible fit for the Ravens, and I said it from the beginning. He's where he needs to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that he might help the Texans and hopefully he helps them beat the Ravens.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll be extra motivated and he'll run forward and he'll block and he'll do all the things he don't normally do because he'll want to punish the Ravens for releasing him. But right. I don't think the Steelers were going to put in a claim. I don't know if they said if they did or not, but the Texans were ahead of them in the waiver claim, so they would have got him anyway.
Yeah.
And they needed him after Tank Dell's injury, which was a tough break for the young man. But I didn't want him back, so I was glad the Texans got him.
Yeah, I didn't want him back either. I was really hoping that um, he didn't go to the Chiefs because I felt that the Chiefs also are a team that are in need of wide receivers. I thought that was going to be a possibility that he was going to go to Kansas City, and I was like, I guess we'll see him. But no, he ended up going to Houston. The Steelers reportedly didn't even put a waiver in for him. They didn't want him at all. So
Yeah.
regardless, yeah, I was pretty happy about that as well. Uh, so for the Chiefs, it appears that they have some question marks with some injuries as well. Patrick Mahomes is dealing with an ankle injury now. He played last week, so they clinched. They got the first round bye, didn't they?
Yes.
So if they clinch,
No, Buffalo beat them, and Buffalo's 2 games behind. So I think if the Chiefs lost to us and in the last game, Buffalo could conceivably overtake them. So I think that they definitely want to win one of the last 2 games.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering. I mean, do they play conservative? Do they rest him a little bit because of the ankle on a short week? And when it maybe not mean as much, but I'm not sure. But another big name that was out for uh, the Kansas City Chiefs is Chris Jones. He was held
Yep.
out. I think if he ends up not playing, that's going to be a huge win for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Obviously, uh, this is going to be a tough game. And I know I'm not going to be able to do my predictions later this week. Pump your brakes isn't going to happen, so I'm not sure if you're going to do your predictions then. Do you have a prediction for this game?
Yeah, and I predicted them to lose to the Eagles, and I was right. And then last week I said if TJ Watt and Pickens could both play, they could upset or they could beat the Ravens in Baltimore.
Mhm.
Well, as we know, Pickens didn't play and they lost. This week, I think they're going to get everybody back other than JPJ. And like I said, I think that the game is in Pittsburgh. I'm hoping for some Christmas magic. We're going to touch the hat. We're going to, we're believing in this Christmas magic, and Santa's going to bring us a gift. And I do believe that they can hang the second loss of the season on Kansas City. I mean, just because it's Wilson has beat Mahomes head to head before, and I have the utmost respect for the Chiefs organization, the coaching, the way they play. They're fundamentally sound, but I believe that this is a game that means more to the Steelers than it does the Chiefs. And being in Pittsburgh, we've seen magic happen. Today was the anniversary of the Immaculate Reception.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to predict that the Steelers are going to come out and they're going to win 27-21.
Good score. I do think that this is a game that the Steelers needed more than the Chiefs.
Yep.
They want it more than the Chiefs at this point. The Chiefs have pretty much all but clinched everything. I too think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game. I think they're going to come out. I think George Pickens is going to be a big factor in this game as far as it may not even be touches. It could be just kind of being that distraction or that decoy so that other players can go out there and feed off of it. I think that's going to be a huge possibility here. It's a short week. It's in Pittsburgh. Off of 2 short weeks, both teams have had to deal with it. But now they're coming to the Chiefs are coming to Pittsburgh. The Steelers have been on the road for the last 2 weeks. I think that there's a good opportunity here that the Steelers win. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Steelers win 24-14. I think they come out explosive, and they Deshaun Elliott comes out, and we need it. Steelers need it. The Steelers fan base needs it. Everybody needs it. Make it for a good Christmas. We've had a couple good ones for the last couple of years. Let's continue that trend. Do you have
Well,
any?
they've actually won on Christmas Day
Yeah.
twice previously.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, I'm just looking for history to repeat itself. Uh, I just think that it would be so Stiller like to lose in Philly, which they always do,
Mhm.
to lay an egg for whatever reason in Baltimore and then beat the Chiefs. This has to feel kind of like the game when they beat Tom Brady and ended the Patriots' long winning streak with
Yeah,
rookie Ben.
yeah,
I just got a weird feeling they'll be able to do it.
they have to. I mean, at this point, if they drop it, even if they beat Cincinnati at the end, um, it in my opinion, that would be going into the playoffs with the wrong, on the wrong side of things. You're going in stumbling versus going in on a high note, so to speak. So these two games are imperative, are important, and I think that if the Steelers can come out victorious in these two games, that'll that'll give that motivation, and I think that confidence back in this team. Especially they, I mean, all they got to do is if they beat the Chiefs, who are 14-1 coming in here, hottest team in the league or whatever, going for the three-peat, whatever you want to call them. And uh, if they go out there and take care of business, that's going to do huge for their confidence, and that could be something that can spark something interesting this playoff season. Well, do you have any final words for anybody for everybody there, Shannon?
Well, these last two games are going to tell us a lot because the teams that are the healthiest
Mm-hmm.
and are executing the best win in the playoffs. Well,
Yes, sir.
that is not the Steelers right now. And if this continues this trajectory, it's going to be another one and done in the playoffs. And they're going to have to take a long, hard look of where this team's going. Now, I said I thought that they were one draft away earlier in the year
Mm-hmm.
and one free agency period away. And then I said, well, you got to strike while the iron's hot. And they had a great opportunity going into the Eagles game. But these last two games are going to tell us a lot. So I really, win, lose, or draw, I don't want to see him get pushed around.
Yeah.
I do not want to feel like the other team wants it more, that they're tougher, they're stronger, and they're playing harder. And I felt that the last 2 weeks. I don't want to feel like that we're being outcoached because I know Tomlin's like, we don't care what the other team does. We only worry about us.
Right.
But you have to look at the other team and say, okay, they're missing all their receivers. Well, we're going to make them beat us throwing the ball. You know what I'm saying? You play and you attack the other team's weaknesses. And it's something that we just haven't been seeing. And especially in the playoffs, teams attack our weaknesses, but we don't do the same. We
Right.
play them just like they're fully healthy every week. So these next two games are going to tell us a lot. And hopefully we'll all have a wonderful Christmas. I hope everybody has a great time of food, fun, and fellowship with their families. Remember the reason for the season. And I love all of our Hangover family and our SCN community. And hopefully we'll get to celebrate a Christmas victory together Wednesday afternoon. And I'm not having dinner till after the game. So I would like to enjoy my meal.
There you go. Putting it all on the line there. Putting it all on the line there, Shannon. Yeah. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope you guys enjoy your time with your family and friends if you're able to. And for those that can't, those that are serving our military and or law enforcement or
Yep.
first responders that have to work on those days and don't get those days off, we appreciate your service and dedication.
God bless you. Yes.
Yes. Merry Christmas to all you guys. Let's get a Steelers victory. That's just 2 days away. And that's already here. With that being said, Shannon, take us out, my man.